I'm sure you see the news about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Is he really going to drop out? Is he really going to endorse Donald Trump? We're going to give you all the breakdown and analysis of it because that could be the game changer of this election. But also, is that really a good thing? I mean, do you want to win the White House if you're then beholden to, well, kind of a wacky left-wing climate maniac like Robert Kennedy? We're going to get into all of those details coming up in a second. Plus, Michelle Obama loves America again. Unless Kamala loses and then she still hates America. It's hard to unpack, but you know how these billionaires are. We'll give you all those details from the DNC last night. Don Lemon gets the surprise of his life when he goes and asks real people who they're going to vote for. And, and we've got brand new jobs numbers. No. Today's not the day we usually get jobs numbers, but what they've done is they revised the last 8 months of jobs numbers because they overestimated them. Shocking how that happens when there's a Democrat in the White House. We're going to get into all that right now. I mean, now, literally right now. I'm Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry. I'm energetic. I'm hyper. I'm very excited for this program, and I hope you are too. Thanks for watching on the live stream, whether you're part of our Rumble community, our YouTube community, our X community, or our Facebook community. You're a big part of our lives, and thanks for letting us be a big part of your lives too. Why don't we just make this official, okay? Instead of just dating and just sort of, let's get real. Let's subscribe. You subscribe to me, I'll subscribe to you, okay? You like me, I'll like you. You follow me, I'll follow you. However you want to do it, all right? Hey, what a great way to start. Ricky D. Upwich. Wait, what happened? Maybe I should just stay in my lane, Kevin, and let you do that. Thank you, Ricky. I appreciate that. You know, if we can get one more penny, we got $20. Ricky, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. We're going to make it worth your while with this program. You're going to love it. Let's get right to it. Yesterday, Nicole Shanahan, the running mate for Robert F. Kennedy Jr., running as independents, and they're on every single ballot around the country, she made an incredible revelation that she and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. are currently contemplating dropping out of the race and throwing all their support to Donald Trump. Now, I want you to hear what she had to say, and then you're going to learn why they're making this decision, and then we're going to discuss whether it's a good idea or not, and what it will actually do. Let's start with the big announcement. Oh, Larry. I was all keyed up. All right, let's start.
You know, there's two options that we're looking at, and one is staying in, forming that new party, but we run the risk of a Kamala Harris and Waltz presidency because we draw votes from Trump, or we draw somehow more votes from Trump, or we walk away right now and join forces with Donald Trump, and you know, we walk away from that and we explain to our base why we're making this decision.
All right, that's absolutely huge. All right, and understand something. The choice is very clear for them. You either stay in the race and hope that the combined efforts will defeat Kamala Harris, or you join with Donald Trump and defeat Kamala Harris. Either way, the entire argument right now within the RFK and Shanahan camp is what is the best thing for us to do right now to defeat Kamala Harris? Because the one thing we can't afford is Kamala Harris keeping power in the White House. Now, there's more at play here in this decision, and she broke it down a little bit. It's actually pretty smart stuff, because if they reach a certain threshold right now as running as independents in the election, then the way election rules are, they can actually form a political party, which gives them campaign matching funds, the way our laws are set up. And so that's part of this equation here. Watch her explain that.
What my gut tells me right now is that we just have to keep being honest. I got to just keep being honest. I got to keep focusing on what matters the most outside of party lines. I need to focus on a vision that goes beyond November. And if that means that we stay in, and, you know, there's benefits to staying in. If we get over 5% of the vote, we actually establish ourselves as a party. 71% of Americans want a strong third party with a real shot at winning. There's even public funds available if we get over 5% of the vote. So we could get, I think it's like $13.5 million in public funds to keep the party going. And that's, that's worth something. That means that we can position for a real third party election in 2028 where we don't have to go around and spend tens of millions of dollars on ballot access, which means that we can spend all of that time and money campaigning. So,
All right. So a couple of things there. And let me just, because we've seen this story play out before. I'm old enough to remember Ross Perot. Some of you might be too. He ran in 1992. He ran again in 1996. And he did breach that 5% threshold. He started a brand new political party, a third party. Maybe you've heard of it. No, you probably haven't, because it died. It doesn't happen. See, here's the problem. The only reason why RFK Jr. is making any possible strides right now as an independent candidate, and it's on the bubble, it's just barely hitting that 5% threshold, but the only reason is because of him. Ross Perot only got the numbers he got because of him. It's a party of a personality. It's not a party based on actual foundational ideas necessarily. And I'm not saying this in a critical way. I'm just saying that if RFK Jr. right now, along with Nicole Shanahan, qualifies as a third party and they get matching funds and now they have ballot access, and oh, that's great, now we're a viable third party. No, you're not. And when RFK goes away, it all goes away. So no, use the power and influence you've got right now to change this election. You can do that right now, single-handedly, and make a difference. Now, Nicole Shanahan, after appearing on the Impact Theory podcast and breaking with this huge revelation, then the folks at Fox News Night, actually got her on set last night after the DNC presentation with the Obamas, and she expanded on this. And guys, this is a very real thing. And in a minute, I'm going to break down the polls state by state and the battleground polls and show you what an enormous impact this would make in this election. And then we'll discuss how this might affect potentially, if Trump wins with Kennedy's support, what does that mean to the Trump presidency? I mean, how big a say does Kennedy have? Should he have any say at all? Does a conservative Republican want to get in bed with somebody with such sort of radical, non-free market ideas that Robert Kennedy does? Is it worth it to keep Kamala Harris out? These are all the balls in play right now. We're going to break down all of them. First, here's Nicole Shanahan last night on Fox News.
You made some big news today, talking about the Kennedy-Shanahan ticket. Does it stay in the race, Nicole? What are your thoughts on that?
You know, it's Bobby's decision. I came into this supporting him wholeheartedly to win this election. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, there's only one party that has obstructed a fair election for us. And unfortunately, it was the Democratic Party. They've done everything they can, including creating PACs to prevent us from being able to have ballot access.
Yeah, it's interesting because you were saying that you could stay in and run the risk of Kamala Harris win, or you could walk and you could join forces with Donald Trump. When you say join forces, Nicole, what do you mean specifically?
Well, this idea of a unity party, an idea of us coming around these principles of fighting for liberty in this country, fighting for our children's health. We have the worst chronic health crisis in the world right now. Over 50% of children are diagnosed with some chronic disease. This is unconscionable. Yeah. And we are willing to work with anyone who is sincere in their endeavor to fix and address this issue.
Do you believe the Trump campaign and Trump himself is sincere? Do you see a home? You talk about this as being Bobby's decision. Do you see a home for RFK Jr., Health and Human Services, something to that extent?
I would fully support it. I would fully support a strong partnership dedicated to this issue. A lot of people comment that in his first term, he didn't accomplish many of the things that mothers really were hoping he would do, made some big mistakes around the pandemic. However, I think that he is sincere.
Yeah.
I do.
I think it's interesting because the National Review today kind of agrees with you. It's saying that if you, in fact, join the Trump I'm not saying the Trump campaign, if you pulled out of the race, that it would be more beneficial to the Trump campaign than the Harris campaign. Is that a fair assessment?
I think that it's a tight race right now.
Yeah.
I wish that we had had a chance to debate, that we had fair representation in the polls. I wish we had a chance to be on stage, because had we likely would have won this election.
Yeah.
You know, 71% of Americans want a strong third party option, and we delivered it in terms of ballot access.
Yeah.
But they're suing us. The DNC
Right.
aligned PACs are suing us to get us off the ballots right now. These are frivolous lawsuits. We've had some of the best people involved in our ballot petitions,
Yeah.
some of the most precise, signature packages ever submitted to any of the Secretary of States. We've overcome so much to
Yeah.
get to this point. So to even be contemplating this is tough. It's a really hard decision, and we don't come to this moment lightly.
All right, we're going to pick that up in a minute, but I want to pull this thread. It's a really important one, and it's really at the crux, the heart of the matter. You see, if there's anybody to blame around here for RFK potentially making this choice to throw all of his support and all of his supporters, which in some states are significant enough to change this election for Donald Trump, if he's on the brink of throwing all of that support to Donald Trump and upending this election, ironically, it's the Democrats, the corrupt, lawfare-loving Democrats like Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, the Obamas, and the Clintons. They'll only have themselves to blame for it, because they're just so clever and they're so smart, and they love using the law to punish their political enemies. We've seen what they've done to Donald Trump, and we saw what they did to Donald Trump in the Clinton campaign when they created the Steele dossier, and then they got the FBI and the Justice Department to use that for a criminal investigation against the sitting president in secret. And now they try to do it to stop Robert Kennedy. We'll go back to the Impact Theory podcast. She expands on this. You need to hear what the Democrats have done. This has not been in the news, but the Democrats have gotten all their big billionaire dark money fundraisers to create super PACs with one goal: to destroy RFK Jr. Listen to this.
Start this campaign, I did not put in tens of millions of dollars to be a spoiler candidate. I put in tens of $millions to win, to fix this country, to do the right thing. I will say that Clear Choice, this PAC, this DNC aligned PAC that was created specifically to take us out, has spent millions of dollars to take us out. They have unfortunately turned us into a spoiler. And we don't want to be a spoiler. We wanted to win. We wanted a fair shot. The DNC made that impossible for us. They have banned us, shadow banned us, kept us off stages, manipulated polls, used lawfare against us, sued us in every possible state. They've even planted insiders into our campaign to disrupt it and to create actual legal issues for us. I mean, the extent by which the sabotage they've unleashed upon us, it's mind-blowing. I mean, we're still learning new ways that they have sabotaged us. I really wanted a fair shot at this election, and I believed in the America that a little girl, pledged an allegiance to. And that is not where we are today. And it's not because of the Republican Party taking us out. It is exclusively because of the Democratic Party taking us out. And
That's absolutely huge. And I think she's sincere here. And by the way, notice something here. See, I'm a student of language and how people communicate their ideas in the media. Have you noticed that everything that she's talking about with regard to the campaign is in the past tense? We wanted to win. We wanted a fair chance. We didn't want to be a spoiler. I planned on this and I wanted, it's all in the, they're talking, she's talking like this decision has actually already been made. And I think it's instructive that RFK is nowhere right now. She's the one who's putting that out there. I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes right now. And what she just described there as the Democratic Party's corruption and lawfare and attempts to sabotage their campaign, to infiltrate with human people like double agents inside their campaign to sabotage them and ruin them. It goes back to something that she just said with Trace Gallagher on the set of Fox News, which is incredibly powerful and impactful. And I want to play it for you again in case you missed it.
I have to say there's only one party that has obstructed a fair election for us. And unfortunately, it was the Democratic Party. They've done everything they can, including creating PACs to prevent us from being able to have ballot access.
That's right. The election interference, the tampering with democracy, the enemies of the democratic process are the Democrats. The threat to democracy, the threat to our Constitution, the threat to free and fair elections are the Democrats. You throw RFK Jr. and Nicole Shanahan up at a rally with Trump communicating that to the voters, and on every television show they can get booked on communicating that, it blunts all of these false claims and accusations that Trump's the threat to democracy. They're living through it right now. Right? And they're not crazy MAGA fascists. For God's sake, he's the son of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Sr. Joe Biden has a bust of his father in the White House. Not to mention the fact that for purely political reasons, the Biden administration, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, refused to grant Secret Service protection to RFK Jr., even though he had multiple home invasions. He had to hire his own security to protect his life on the campaign trail. The man is a Kennedy, the most assassinated political family in American history. And he only got Secret Service protection after the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, which, by the way, proves that it was purely political. Okay, I guess now we'll give you Secret Service. Now that an actual bullet has whizzed by the skull of one of the candidates. So that's the other thing that makes this powerful. This isn't just RFK Jr., angry or annoyed or frustrated because he couldn't get traction. No, he's pissed. And he knows exactly who's to blame, and he wants to crush them. And that's the kind of an energy that a campaign could use. Now, what does this do to the election? Well, I've been telling you for quite some time that if you're looking at polls, and to be honest, the polls right now, this early on, we're not even at Labor Day. It's still a fluid situation. But if you are going to look at polls, don't look at the national polls because we don't elect presidents on a national basis. They're irrelevant. They're literally irrelevant. The only polls that matter are state by state, and most specifically in certain states: Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, and now suddenly Virginia. And when you look at the polls in those states, only look at the five-way race. Don't look at Trump versus Harris head-to-head. Why? Well, it's the same reason you don't look at national polls. A head-to-head Kamala Harris-Donald Trump poll is irrelevant, because the election is not going to be head-to-head Harris versus Trump. RFK Jr.'s name will be on the ballot. Jill Stein's name will be on the ballot. Cornel West's name will be on the ballot. So what happens when you look at these critical states and you look at the five-way race? Well, we'll swing over to Real Clear Politics right now. If you look right now in Wisconsin, the average shows that Kamala Harris is winning by 1.7%. Now, if you look at the actual numbers, 46 to 44. Look down the Trump column. His numbers have not really changed. And by the way, if you go back to when it was Biden, Trump's numbers basically stayed the same. All right. He has not lost support since Kamala Harris entered the race. What's happened is Kamala Harris has gotten more support than Biden had. And all of that support comes from this column right here, the Kennedy column. Kennedy right now is sitting at 5% in this race in Wisconsin. Kennedy throws his support, and let's say how many of his supporters decide to go to Trump if he throws his support to Trump? 75%? It's over. It's over in Wisconsin. 100%. Let's swing down to Georgia. Before we even get into Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, let's go to the other ones. Because here's the thing. If Trump wins all the states he won last time, plus he wins Georgia and Arizona, 2 states he lost last time, but he's trending much better now. Then after that, all he's got to do is pick up Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. All right, so we'll leave those three. We hit Wisconsin, but let's start with Georgia. Right now in Georgia, without Kennedy in the race, or with Kennedy in the race, he's up by about 2 points on average. All right. Kennedy represents 4% in the state of Georgia. He throws his support to Trump, it's over. It's not even close. Arizona, how's Arizona looking right now? Right now, it's basically a dead heat. Harris has a 0.5 point. It's within the margin of error. But look at Kennedy in Arizona. Kennedy's sitting at close to 6 points. He throws his support and endorses Donald Trump. And by the way, key to that endorsement is the implicit understanding that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. will have some position of influence in the Trump administration. We'll get to that in a minute. But obviously, that's what's going to be important, because the Kennedy supporters need to know that if they're voting for Trump, then their guy is going to have a seat at the table. Now, what that seat is and what he has to say, we saw from Nicole Shanahan what that might look like. What did she say? She said that what was important to them was children's health issues, right? And actually, you know what? I don't want to just go off the top of my head. Let's go back to it right away and say, here's what she said. You know, when Trace Gallagher said, so would you want to roll in the Trump administration? What would that look like? She was very specific about their priorities.
I think to that extent.
I would fully support it. I would fully support a strong partnership dedicated to this issue. A lot of people comment that in his first term, he didn't accomplish many of the things that mothers really were hoping he would do, made some big mistakes around the pandemic. However, I think that he is sincere.
Yeah,
I do.
I think it's interesting because the National Review.
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped ahead too far. Let's go here.
Specifically.
Well, this idea of a unity party, an idea of us coming around these principles of fighting for liberty in this country, fighting for our children's health. We have the worst chronic health crisis in the world right now. Over 50% of children are diagnosed with some chronic disease.
All right, now let me tell you something. I'm a conservative Republican, and I am very wary of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. because of his long history of radical climate change policies and politics. He hates fossil fuel. He hates oil. He hates gas. I don't want him to have any say with regard to our energy independence and our ability to drill, baby, drill. And I'm sure Trump isn't going to go on board with that stuff too. But that wasn't mentioned here. That wasn't mentioned here in any way whatsoever as a priority. What are the two priorities? Liberty, okay. And by the way, when RF Kennedy Jr. talks about liberty, he talks about not being forced to get a vaccine by the government. He talks about you having autonomy over your health decisions, right? And I'm on board with that. Aren't you on board with that? Okay. And then if you're talking about getting Kennedy involved in reformatting how Americans are treating our farmers and agriculture in this country so that we're not importing cattle and pork products from China or South America and agriculture from South America, and create just like energy independence and agricultural independence in America, so we're not reliant on any countries for that sort of thing. And we get pharmaceuticals out of the business of diagnosing children who are just acting like kids and don't mean to be drugged up. If that's what she's talking about here, count me in. All right. So if the partnership is announced in such a way that these Kennedy supporters are told, yeah, he's going to have a seat at the table, and if your priorities are these priorities, then the only way to get it done is to vote for Trump. Well, it brings us back to Arizona, where it's a dead heat right now, but Kennedy's sitting at 6%. It's over. By the way, Nevada is also one of those states that Biden won last time. Right now, when you look at Nevada, Trump is up by 2.5 points on the average. I mean, Nevada seems like it's over right now for Kamala. That's why she came out, by the way, and said that she was on board with the no tax on tips thing as well. But look at Kennedy, again, sitting at 5%. If Kennedy endorses Trump in these key states, and it's understood by the Kennedy voters that he's going to have a seat at the table, Trump wins. Easy. Okay, so that clears the map, right? Now we're only left with 3 states: Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. Now we already looked at Wisconsin really fast, just so a reminder. Right now, Harris is up by 1.5 points on the average. Kennedy's sitting at 5 points. Michigan, well, Michigan right now, Harris has got a better lead, a little over 2 points, but look at Kennedy in Michigan, sitting at 6 points right now. Completely upends and changes the game in the state of Michigan. And over in Pennsylvania, Harris right now, according to these averages, sitting at 2 points. Kennedy just at 4 points. That's the difference. That's the difference in all of those states. And if they're serious about this and they roll this out right, who is Donald Trump? He's the master of the deal. He works out this deal, he wins. It's really that simple. Which brings me back to my dilemma. As a conservative Republican, do you want, for the sake of defeating Kamala Harris and getting Harris, Biden, Obama politics out of the White House and get Donald Trump back in there so he can do the things that he's promised to do, like resecure our border, deport illegal immigrants who have gotten in over the last several years, restore our national security, and tell Hamas, you either stand down or we'll obliterate you, end the nuclear deal with Iran once and for all, tell Russia that Europe is not going to touch any of their gas or oil anymore, thus defunding the entire war effort and getting us to be energy independent by drilling through the roof. Also investigating all of the corrupt government officials who have been tampering with our elections over the years, starting with those 51 intelligence experts who told us that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation, and righting this ship back in the direction that America is supposed to be on. If gaining all of that means that you allow Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and some of his people into the government, is that worth it? Is it worth the risk? Or do you roll the dice and you try to win outright without making a bargain with Kennedy? As a conservative, I'm torn. Because again, Kennedy's a radical. Go look at what he's said in the past. He's got some good ideas, yes. But at his heart and soul, a little loopy. And I think that Trump can win outright anyway. Do you need that bargain? Well, the fact of the matter is, in other countries, this happens all the time. In parliamentary countries, where the majority in the major house of parliament ends up choosing their prime minister, like in Great Britain, like in Israel, Japan, Italy, other countries like that, where they don't actually have a head of state as their president, as their prime minister. This happens all the time. There is always a coalition government formed, as she put it, a unity party that is formed, where parties find enough in common where they come together and say, all right, we'll share power to a certain extent. Obviously, in this case, the Republicans would share the lion's share of power in the executive branch, but we will come together to win this election and have some kind of unification. This is the kind of thing that happens in other countries all the time. We're just not used to it here in America. I mean, is this what needs to be done to ensure, without a doubt, that Trump gets his second term and we finally have a chance to get back to normalcy in this country, especially considering the radical ideas Kamala Harris has already put forth? If you ask me today, as of right now, based on where things are headed, I say you make this deal. I can't believe I'm saying it, but I say you make this deal. I'd love to hear your opinion, by the way, because it matters more than anything. Go ahead and tell us in the comments wherever you're watching us today. Do you think it's worth it to let Kennedy have a seat at the table in the Trump administration to get his endorsement and his support and swing this election? By the way, Donald Trump was asked about this yesterday, and his answer, well, I mean, he's the master of the art of the deal, right? His answer was pretty good.
Can I ask you about RFK? Because just moments ago, his running mate said that they were considering endorsing you. Have you considered him for a role in the administration, and what role would that be?
Well, we haven't, but I would love that endorsement because I've always liked him.
Would you also consider putting him in the administration?
You're asking me a very unusual question. I haven't been asked that question yet. I like him a lot. I respect him a lot. I probably would if something like that would happen.
he'd consider it. He would. He would give him a role in the administration. And there's another fringe benefit to all of this that I haven't even mentioned, but I will now. Because again, I'm shocked. I've been thinking about this for the last 24 hours since this broke yesterday late afternoon, and it's a dilemma. It really is, and this is the kind of thing where you have to look at your grounded principles. You have to look at your North Star, and you have to say, okay, what's the priority? What's the most important thing? Right now, keeping Kamala Harris from the Oval Office is, in fact, the most important thing. But there's also one other fringe benefit that I hesitate to mention because I don't want it to spoil this thing, because I feel like it's, it's Christmas time. And if you mention the present that you really want, it'll jinx it. But I'm going to say it. If this were to happen, if RFK Jr., the darling, he even looks like Bobby Kennedy, the darling of Hollywood elites. Hollywood loves RFK Jr. He's married to an actress, for God's sake. He lives in Hollywood. He's feted by that. If RFK Jr. throws down with MAGA and is part of a coalition government where he's up on stage saying that the Democrats are the threat to this democracy, that they're the tyrannical ones and they're the threat to the future of this country, it will drive the media, the political left, the cultural left, the late night comedians and talk shows, Hollywood writ large, academia, and college professors. It will drive them insane. That George Stephanopoulos' head will literally explode on television when he has to announce this news report. And honestly, I think that's the top reason why I want this to happen. So we'll see. We shall see. Seriously, though, I'd love to hear your reaction. What do you think? Is this going to happen? Do you want this to happen? Is this a good idea? If you're advising Donald Trump, what do you tell him right now? Should he be on the phone with RFK right now, working out the deal? Let us know in the comments. Hey, in these crazy times, there's a peace of mind in security, right? I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in our world. It's only been 5 weeks since Donald Trump came this close from being assassinated. We want security. We want security for our country. We want security for our leaders. And, of course, security for our families. But think about this. You're not actually financially secure if all of your eggs are in one basket. Gold and silver are an excellent way to diversify your savings. They're a hedge against inflation. They're a physical asset that's in high demand globally from the wealthy to central banks. And through my friends at Birch Gold Group, you can own physical gold and silver. You can own it outright, the actual physical gold. And you can own it in a tax-sheltered retirement account. That's right. Just diversify an old IRA or 401k for no money out of pocket. This is money you've already got in an account, and then put it into an IRA in gold and silver. This is one thing you can do to secure your family's savings. Text Larry to 989898. That's LARRY to 989898. Receive a free no obligation info kit and learn the role precious metals play in your overall saving strategies. Again, text Larry to 989898. Do it today. Don Lemon is a talentless hack, a moron, if you will. And he was only allowed to exceed and excel to a primetime position at CNN because, well, he was a bit of a bully in the newsroom and a self-aggrandizer, and he got himself some opportunities. And then he came out as gay. So he was a black gay man at CNN. And, well, he saw which way the wind was blowing. And when the studio executives and cable network presidents were looking to promote people to be representatives of certain communities, well, Don Lemon's what we call a twofer. But of course, then he became arrogant and obnoxious and rude and was eventually fired for his behavior with his coworkers. And by the way, let's not forget his lack of ratings power. Ultimately, I don't care what boxes you check. If you can't bring an audience, you're done. Well, unless you're Joy Reid. MSNBC stuck with her forever. So Don Lemon is now out on his own, and he's doing his own thing on X, and we support that because we think independent journalists streaming their content on the internet on social media platforms is a very, very good thing. Right? Absolutely. So Don Lemon has decided to do a man on the street thing where he goes to cities and asks people who they're going to vote for. The problem is Don Lemon is not at all prepared for the answers he gets. He seems to specifically try to target people of color with these questions because Don Lemon just makes certain assumptions about people based on their skin color. There's a word for that. I'll have to look it up. Anyway, watch what happens.
How are you feeling about the election?
I'm going for Trump. I feel like every time they don't want somebody who is good for us to win, they throw somebody black in our face thinking that's going to like make us vote for the black person.
I voted for Obama because he was black. I don't want to vote for her because she's the first black woman to run for president or to win.
I don't vote.
Well, I want Donald Trump. I'm sorry. I want Donald
Why
Trump.
do you apologize?
Well, I know nobody likes him, but we had good times with Donald Trump.
I'm running for Trump, so
You are?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, why?
I don't know. I just always been a fan of his, so that's what I'm running for.
I used to be against Trump. I used to live in Virginia. I saw the bad side of it, but really moving to Cleveland, I saw the other side of it. I'm supporting Trump.
Because?
Because it has to change.
Yeah.
It has to change. And now I vote more for what fits me better as a person rather than voting for the black person or voting for the first woman. So
What do you think about Kamala Harris?
I think they say she phony and fake. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like Trump saying, what are you? So I'm not feeling her. People get mad about it. I'm just not feeling her.
I don't like her the way she speaks, the giddiness, the laughing. Everything's a joke, and it's not a joke. We're in trouble.
I'm going for Trump. Kamala was on Biden's team, and I don't like Biden. Gas wasn't this high when Trump was our president. Food wasn't this high. I'm going for Trump.
Wow.
How are you?
That's pretty definitive. By the way, she just called her Kamala, which is racist. I don't know if she got the memo on that, but it's Kamala, damn it. You Klanswoman. That's just definitive. I mean, it's unequivocal. So then he goes to the boardwalk in New Jersey, in Atlantic City, and he tries it again.
Here in Jersey, Atlantic City. Who do you support? I'll plead the fifth.
Trump for the win.
Tell me why.
I can't really call that right now, but I just feel like she's not good for president. She's good vice, but not for the actual lead role for the country.
Does it have anything to do with being a woman?
No. No, because I feel like women, nah, you're not going to give me that.
The money's on here.
Yeah.
By the way, don't you love Don Lemon immediately going there? Oh, so it's because she's a woman. Can it possibly be because she's completely unaccomplished in her entire career, that she has nothing during her 3.5 years as vice president to point to that's any good? And by the way, things suck right now, and she's been in power with Joe Biden. Could it be that she's just wholly unlikable as a human being? Nope, it's got to be because she doesn't have a penis. This is just so typical of a liberal media mindset. Everyone gets categorized. By the way, he finally finds someone who wants Harris, and it's the white dude, the middle-aged white dude.
Who do you want? Trump. Why don't you like Harris?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought he said he was voting for Harris. I'm sorry. Let's start that again. Oh, I see. He says his money's on Harris.
Nah, you're not going to give me that.
The money's on here.
Yeah.
Who do you want?
Trump.
Why don't you like Harris?
Oh, she don't have any experience.
She's the vice president. She's a senator.
No, she has no experience.
Well, I want Donald Trump. I just feel we need somebody that has a stronger background with the military and the world in general.
She was a prosecutor and attorney general, senator, vice president. If you're in a gambling town, who's your money on?
Don't you, by the way, don't you love that he's actually sort of advocating for her? I mean, I'm just a journalist. I'm just here to ask the questions. She was a senator and a vice president and an attorney general. Come on. What's not to love? I realize now that this is a montage of some of the clips that you've already seen, but we'll get through it.
I'm going to support the Democratic Party, but I mean, Trump looks like he got it in the bag right now.
4 years ago, it was a lot better. I made a lot more money than I do now.
I know you feel that way, but that's not actually what the record shows. The economy is actually better under Biden. No, I'm serious. That's what the facts show.
CNN?
Okay, you know what?
No, that's not because I watched CNN. Trump or Harris?
Trump.
That's who's going to win.
That's who's going to win.
Who you support?
I support Trump. All the people that came to this country legally, it's not fair that they're letting all 10,000 to 15,000 people or 20,000 people here illegally. Have you seen San Diego? Yeah. They're coming off the boats, off the water right here, off the ocean. Did you know Biden was flying them in? Did you know Biden was flying them in? You didn't know that?
Oh, I know nobody likes him, but we had good times with Donald Trump. Our economy was good. Life was good.
But you know the economy's better under Biden than Trump.
Bullshit.
That's what the stats show. That's what the facts show.
Well, you know what? I don't know where they're getting their facts, but I don't think they're valid. I don't know where their facts are coming from.
No, well, they're coming from exactly where she said it was, because it's all it's 100% bull. But you do love that. Again, Don Lemon, it's when you go out and you do a man on the street thing, you're supposed to ask a question, get the information, and then go back to studio and put it together. You don't fight with them. You don't argue with them. You don't tell them they're stupid and they don't know what they're talking about. And by the way, Lemon's the stupid one. This one guy
was a lot better. I made a lot.
Hey, God, I want to show you this one in particular. All right. This is the guy who said, I made a lot more money under Trump, right? And Don Lemon tries to tell him he's full of it.
A lot more money than I do now.
I know you feel that way, but that's not actually what the record shows. The economy is actually better under Biden. No, I'm serious.
Now, I love that he just laughed in his face, because that's the only appropriate thing to do to somebody like that. And of course, he'll say, well, the statistics show it that way. First of all, you go with that, guys. I mean, even Kamala Harris has abandoned that. She's out there admitting that people are hurting. She's admitting that housing is too expensive, and that food is too expensive, and groceries are too expensive, and medical care is too expensive. She's the one who wants to basically Karl Marx our entire economy, because she knows how bad things are. Don Lemon hasn't gotten the memo. He's still out there saying, but the statistics, but the numbers. You may feel like things were better, but you're just wrong. Hey, Don, what happened to my lived experience? What happened to my truth? And by the way, he's just completely full of it. One person out on X, who did this for us? I'm not sure what handle. I'm sorry, I'm not giving you credit, but he put this clip out there and juxtaposed it with real median household income for the last couple of years. 2019 under Trump, $78,250. Okay. 2022, $74,580. Okay. So here's what the real median income was under Donald Trump before the pandemic, $78,250. Here's what the real median income was under Joe Biden after the pandemic, $74,580. And what does Don Lemon have to say about that? Oh, I'm sorry.
A lot better. I made a lot more money than I do now.
I know you feel that way, but that's not actually what the record shows. The economy is actually better under Biden. No, I'm serious. That's what the facts show.
Okay, you know what?
No, that's not because I watched the
4 years.
I did. That's my other favorite part. He laughed in his face and said, why? Because you watch CNN? Because everybody knows that we're lied to. And you are literally being told right now to ignore your experience, to ignore what your bills are, to ignore what your income is as opposed to what you have to spend, to ignore what it costs to drive a car, ignore what it costs to clothe and feed your children, ignore what it costs to keep a roof over your head, ignore all of it, because you're wrong. The economy is better than it's ever been. Which is exactly what Biden was going for. That was his message. And that's why Trump has already beaten him, just demolished him. Didn't even make it to game time. And even Kamala Harris, as you'll see in the next 2 nights at the convention, she's actually abandoned that message too. In fact, we've got some clips of the convention coming up in a moment for you to see. It's like they're running against themselves. We've got to turn this around. We can't afford 4 more years. You're the incumbents. You're running for 4 more years. So Don Lemon, I mean, God bless him. I think he thinks he's doing some kind of journalism or media show there, but I don't think he was fully expecting what would happen here, which makes sense because Tucker Carlson on his show with my buddy, my coworker, Vince Colonnese, we work at the same radio station in Washington, D.C. They talked about Don Lemon and where he is right now in his career and where he's come from. And I think it's worth letting Tucker have the last word here on Don Lemon.
I saw Don Lemon is running around right now. He's doing man on the street interviews. That's his latest iteration.
For whom?
For Don Lemon. This is DL on his microphone. For his own on his microphone.
I haven't talked to Don in a while. I had high hopes for Don, but he learned nothing.
I know you did. I know you did.
Sad.
He's talking to people like all across, I guess, across the country. He's going to different places or beach communities that he's staying in, and he just happens to put a microphone in people's faces. I'm not sure. But he's talking to people and he's asking them who you're supporting. And he's getting a lot of people saying, Trump, I'm voting for Trump. And a lot of black people responding, I'm voting for Trump. And in one, he confronts the guy who says, I was better off financially under Trump. And he says, that's not true. Don Lemon,
That's not true.
Don Lemon
No,
tells him-
you were happier.
He's like,
when Trump wasn't president.
He's like, fact check false. Fact check false. Like,
did he actually?
He didn't say the words fact check false, but he virtually did it. He was like, no, things are much better now economically. And you're like, what world is he living in?
Economic analysis aside, the arrogance required to look into someone's face and disagree with his own assessment of his
Yes,
financials. It's like,
I
no,
know.
actually, we've never met before. But what you just told me about your life is not true. It can't be true. It's like, shut up and listen. Just listen to people for a second.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's, first of all, it's kind of fun. Second, you learn a lot. But how arrogant would you have to be not to listen?
Just ask a few questions and then bounce your own assumptions off them and see what they say.
Vince, I know you told me that you were diagnosed with cancer recently, but you don't have cancer.
Yeah.
We've never met. I'm not a physician, but I just want to say you don't have cancer.
Yeah.
Silly man.
Yeah. That's right. That would be true. And no American needs a government report to tell them that they're miserable, by the way. I love that the media sort of waits for unemployment reports to tell, like Don Lemon, like telling you shouldn't be miserable. No, the data says not that you're not miserable. You're fine. Like, what? All of that government stuff is one, cooked, and two, a trailing indicator of what's actually happening.
Like Don Lemon, someone like that, you think, well, does he really know what he's saying?
Right.
No, not really. I don't think he does. I don't think he has any idea what he's saying, actually, which kind of makes me sort of like him. But Don Lemon is living in this like airtight bubble of self-esteem that's just impregnable. Like, you can't violate Don's self-esteem. It's bulletproof.
Bulletproof self-esteem, an airtight bubble of it. Yeah, that's great. Is there anything better, by the way, that just sudden explosion of laughter that Tucker erupts with when something tickles him immediately, and that's very real, by the way. When Tucker lived in DC, we used to socialize here and there, and that's just who he is. What you see of Tucker Carlson on his, especially on his new show, is Tucker Carlson. He's a good guy. Good guy. And so is Vince Coglianese. That was a great, if you haven't seen this segment of the show, I think it's from Monday, worth seeing. It's like 2.5 hours long, and it's a great conversation between two guys who know what they're talking about, especially when it comes to Don Lemon. Last night, it was Obama night at the Democratic National Convention, and it was interesting to see some of the things that were said. Michelle Obama at one point said, "Are you sensing that we finally, after a long, long time, we've got hope back? Hope is back, America." And I'm thinking to myself, your guy is literally in the White House right now. And by the way, this is an insult to Hillary Clinton, too. Like, when they say hope is making a comeback in America, and it's been a long time since we felt this way, they're talking about themselves. They're narcissists. They've got egos the size of the United Center in Chicago. I'm shocked that they were both able to fit into the room. And they're talking about, oh, finally, we're bringing back the Obama magic. Who's that an insult to? Not just Biden. Hillary. I've told you this before. They all hate each other. Oh, the Obamas hate Hillary. Absolutely. And Hillary hates Obama right back. The difference between Democrats and Republicans who hate each other is that they're able to fake it more, the Democrats are. So Michelle Obama's doing all this stuff, and I was, we're bringing hope back, we're bringing hope back. And Biden's out in California, and Hillary's, drunk on a puddle of Chardonnay, and they're both like, hey, I'm sitting right here. What are you doing? And then Michelle Obama said this.
You see, my mom, in her steady, quiet way, lived out that striving sense of hope every single day of her life. She believed that all children, all people have value, that anyone can succeed if given the opportunity. She and my father didn't aspire to be wealthy. In fact, they were suspicious of folks who took more than they needed. They understood that it wasn't enough for their kids to thrive if everyone else around us was drowning. So my mother volunteered at the local school. She.
All right. A couple of things here are risable. Let me just say flat out, for her to say that on national television, in that room with a straight face. She's what a set of balls on her to do that. That takes real cojones. It is absolutely, and I bounce between being sad and frustrated and absolutely white rage angry at this kind of gaslighting. Let me explain the sad and frustrated part first. Let's go to the beginning here.
You see, my mom, in her steady, quiet way, lived out that striving sense of hope every single day of her life. She believed that all children, all people have value, that anyone can succeed if given the opportunity.
All right.
She and my father.
So we'll start there. She talks a lot about her mother and her mother's principles and values that she instilled in young Mrs. Obama, and the fact that she thought that children, if they work hard enough and do the right thing, they can achieve anything. She talks about how her father had to work 2 jobs, and he would come home at night so exhausted that he would fall asleep in his chair instead of going to bed because he had to work so hard to make enough money to give his children a good life. And she tells these stories about her parents as if this is all so horrible, what they had to endure. And I hear those stories and I think about my own parents, and you probably do as well. Or maybe you think about yourself doing the same thing for your kids right now. And I hear that and I think that's fantastic. Your dad sounds amazing. Your mother sounds amazing. Why are you trying to steal from them the dignity of their principles and their values and their morals and their work ethic? By suggesting that there's something wrong with working 2 jobs so that your children can grow up and go to Princeton and get an education and marry a man who becomes president of the United States. Your mother's right. Anybody can grow up if they do the right thing and make the right choices and better themselves. They can achieve anything they want in this country. That's what makes America so great. Why are you constantly crapping on it? And why are you trying to upend our society that has been built on those very same values and principles that allowed you to succeed because of your parents' hard work, and create a brand new culture in this country that doesn't at all reward that kind of effort, in fact, talks down about that effort and suggests that the only reason why people don't succeed is because of institutional racism. You are living proof that institutional racism is a lie. And yet they use their own wonderful family experiences to drag down this country and the very institutions that have been created because of those principles and values. And that's why I get very frustrated and sad. And now here comes the rage.
She and my father didn't aspire to be wealthy. In fact, they were suspicious of folks who took more than they needed.
Now, when a politician, and make no mistake, this one right here is a politician. When a politician tells a story about their family and things that their parents used to say and do and tell them, first of all, usually it's a crock. It's something that a speechwriter wrote and they say, oh yeah, I can get away with saying this. And secondly, it's designed to lecture you. See, whenever a politician says, my dad always used to say, it's their way of lecturing you. My dad used to lecture me and he used to tell me this. And I'm now saying it to you and I'm lecturing you. And Michelle Obama is lecturing you that there's something wrong with you if you take more than you need. Now, listen, it's a beautiful sentiment, I suppose, except when one sort of plays this out in terms of political policy, because you see, this isn't a sermon at a church, and this isn't a self-help group, and this isn't a self-improvement book that you're reading. This is a political convention where this political party who's espousing this whole idea that there's something wrong or suspicious, as she put it, of people who take more than they need, they're suggesting then that if they get into power, they're going to do something about that. through the force and might of government. So let's play this out, shall we? The first question, and the only question really that needs to be asked here, which you will never get an answer to, is who exactly decides how much you need? Who gets to decide that, oh, you've taken more than you need? I've decided that you don't need that much, right? Who gets to make that decision? And since this one is delivering the speech and the lecture to you in the confines of a political convention where they're trying to acquire power and exercise it over our lives, I guess we're to assume that it's her and her husband that get to decide how much is enough. What was it your parents used to be suspicious of?
Anyone can succeed if given the opportunity. She and my father didn't aspire to be wealthy. In fact, they were suspicious of folks who took more than they needed.
I want you to know that the net worth of Michelle and Barack Obama right now is close to $1 billion. 16 years ago, when Michelle Obama became first lady, she bragged about the fact that she still had student loan debt and that she and her husband, who was a lifetime government employee, elected official, and community organizer, had trouble making ends meet with the pile of student debt that they still had to deal with their Ivy League educations. Now, part of that is because Barack Obama made the life choice to get an Ivy League law degree and then use it for community organizing purposes, which, you know, doesn't necessarily pay much unless you can then fake your way into an elected position, then a senator, and then the White House. Nevertheless, 16 years ago, they were in debt when they moved into the White House. Now, 16 years later, never having any real job other than government jobs, they are close to being worth $1 billion. But, you know, the last thing you should do is take more than you need. That's very suspicious. But, you know, when you're the Obamas, there's quite a bit that you need. For instance, this beautiful home in Washington, D.C., in the Kalorama district, the most exclusive neighborhood. This isn't the latest picture of the home because they've actually built a giant wall around it for protection, privacy, and security purposes. But that's not the only home they have. This is an aerial shot of the home they have in Hawaii, I believe. Home is one word for it. Another would be mansion. And then, of course, oh, no, wait, I'm sorry. This is the Martha's Vineyard home. This is the home in Hawaii that's still under construction. That's 3 of their multi-million-dollar mansions. But I'm sorry, Michelle, what was it again that your parents were suspicious of?
Do you have that clip, Larry?
Oh, I'm so sorry, Kevin. I'm bouncing all over the place.
She and my father didn't aspire to be wealthy. In fact, they were suspicious of folks who took more than they needed.
They were suspicious of folks who took more than they needed. Like this mansion and this mansion and that mansion. I mean, listen, I don't begrudge them their wealth. My problem is that they acquire it without actually doing a real job or contributing anything to the economy. And then they stand up there, literally wag their finger at us and lecture us about wanting to get our share. But based on their measure, I guess this is the appropriate amount that you need. So, you know, there's nothing suspicious about you wanting a net worth close to $1 billion and multiple mansions all around the country. Her parents would be fine with that. And so is she. Which brings us to Bernie Sanders last night, who, again, I feel like somebody should tell them. Somebody should tell them that Joe Biden is, in fact, currently the president of the United States.
We need an economy that works for all of us, not just the billionaire class.
Now, I want you to know that Bernie Sanders, 8 years ago when he first ran for president, that same line was, we need an economy for all that works not just for the millionaire class. Now he's changed it to billionaire.
Fine. We need an economy that works for all of us, not just the billionaire class.
Right. The reason he's modified that is because he now is, in fact, a millionaire. And, he can't get caught up in that. So you heard the crowd. In fact, let's listen to this sustained applause from the delegates at the Democratic National Convention, hearing Bernie Sanders scream about the billionaire class and how the economy needs to work for people. By the way, again, can I just point out that 12 of the last 16 years, Democrats have had power in the White House. And of the 4 years they didn't, 2 of those years, Democrats had power in the House and the Senate. So when Bernie Sanders gets up there with his spittle flying and says, we need an economy that works for everyone, not just the billionaire class, who in the created this economy? I mean, who is he running against? They're literally the incumbent party asking for 4 more years. That said, listen to the sustained applause from the Democrats at the United Center at the idea that we've got to rip the power away from the billionaires. That's right. Huge ovation for that. Almost as big an ovation for the very next speaker, Governor J.B. Pritzker of Illinois, a billionaire. And he got up there and bragged about it.
Thinks that we should trust him on the economy because he claims to be very rich. But take it from an actual billionaire.
I think the applause was actually bigger for the actual billionaire than Bernie screaming about how we've got to stop catering to the billionaires. I'm not sure. It could be a wash. But boy, the hypocrisy involved in this escapade last night. We've got to stop catering to the billionaires. Very next speaker. I'm a billionaire. Yay! See, they love their billionaires. As long as you use money to give us power, we're fine with it. By the way, he wasn't the only one. Jordan Schachtel laid it out here. These are the speaker's net worth last night, just last night. Jack Schlosselberg, son of Caroline Kennedy, he's going to inherit $100 million. J.B. Pritzker, as I said, founder of the Hyatt hotel chain, his inherited wealth, $3.6 billion. Doug Emhoff is worth over $10 million by suing people, and then Barack and Michelle Obama, their net worth, actually, it's higher than that, Jordan, I'm quite sure. But let's say it's $100 million. Those were last night's speakers. But, they're for the common man. And they're constantly decrying Donald Trump for being out of touch and for being the one who represents the elite and the wealthy. But it's funny. While all of that was going on, Donald Trump gave an interview to Theo Von. Did you see this? This is remarkable. I like Theo Von, by the way, a lot. I like what he does, and I think he's a really fun interviewer, and it's very accessible. And Donald Trump sitting with Theo Von on his social media platforms reached way more potential voters last night than the entire primetime show that CNN and MSNBC were having Obamagasms about all night. And the Donald Trump that was presented to Theo Von's audience, an audience that probably doesn't know a lot about Donald Trump, and many of them probably voting for the first time, was a whole lot different than Michelle Obama lecturing you with her pursed lips about how you've got more than you need. Let us take the rest of it because we're the government and we have much more virtue than what you'll do with your money. And Bernie Sanders screaming through his spittle and dandruff flying everywhere about how our economy shouldn't be built for billionaires. They didn't see that from Donald Trump, an actual billionaire. They saw somebody very different. And I want you to see some of that man too. Listen, I really want you to watch this whole thing. And this goes on for quite some time, but it's an amazing exchange here. And, Susie Moon here makes the point that I wanted to make, because it was one of the most riveting parts of this, Susie, in this interview with Theo Von, is that Trump stopped everything. As soon as he learned that Theo has actually struggled with addiction problems and has had issues, suddenly Trump starts asking all the questions. Trump's interviewing. Trump wants to know more. First of all, because I think he actually has some level of empathy and compassion here, because it's such an important thing in his life. But also, even more importantly, this is how you learn things. Did you notice the questions that he was asking? He wanted to know. He wants to be able to understand. He wants to know about this issue because he doesn't have personal experience with it because he doesn't touch this stuff. And he's raised his children the same way. It showed a very empathetic, compassionate guy, not the guy that the Democrats and the liberals and the media would portray on a regular basis. I think the fact that he's doing these interviews is very smart of him. It shows him in a different light, and it shows him in a different light to a very different audience. And he needs to do that. I mean, this is the third time running for president for him. And he needs to break through the stereotype that people have of him. And I think it's very smart for him to do this. And good job with Theo Vaughn also. I really like him. There's one other thing that happened yesterday with Trump that I wanted to share with you quickly that he also needs to do more of. He appeared in with law enforcement officers in a city called Howell, Michigan. Strangely, by the way, my grandparents lived in Howell, Michigan upon their death in their final years. That's where they retired to and ended up living. They lived on a lake there. And I just learned yesterday, I've known Howell, Michigan since I was a child, right? I used to go visit my grandparents there all the time. And I just learned yesterday when Donald Trump went to Howell, Michigan, that it's apparently a hotbed of racism. That a Klansman used to live in Howell, Michigan, and it's become a hotbed of racism and white nationalism and white superiority in Michigan. Who knew? I didn't know. I guess my grandpa was the Grand Wizard or something. Who knew? I didn't know. So apparently somebody brought this up and made a big deal out of it yesterday while Trump was in Howell, Michigan, and a reporter challenged him on it. And you need to see how he handled it.
Thank you, everybody, very much.
By the way, the reporter is saying, can you respond to the Kamala Harris campaign who's accusing you of coming here and sending dog whistles because Howell, Michigan is a hotbed of white nationalism, right? And by the way, look at the look on Trump's face. He was ready for this. You see how his eyebrows have gone up? Oh, I'm glad you asked that. Yeah, let me...
Who was here in 2021? Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
I don't know if you heard that, but the reporter, he said, who was here in 2021? The reporter said, Joe Biden. Yeah, Joe Biden was there in 2021. And funny, the whole thing about white supremacy didn't come up, which, by the way, I guess makes sense because his best friend was Robert Byrd, the Supreme Cyclops or something. He founded the Klan in West Virginia back in the day. So I guess for Joe Biden, Howell was just a, coming home trip. But I do love Trump's reaction here.
Here in 2021. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
That's brilliant. That's classic. And he should smile more when he's crapping all over journalists. It's a good look. Very good look. Big news this morning when it comes to the unemployment numbers. And I know you might think, wait a minute, it's the middle of August. You don't get unemployment numbers in the middle of August and in the middle of the week. It's always on a Friday and it's always, right at it. No. Department of Labor Statistics have revised their unemployment numbers from the last several months. And it's remarkable that the revision all goes in one direction when there's a Democrat in the White House. Here's our pal Jim Acosta at CNN delivering the news this morning.
Some breaking news in the CNN right now. The job growth has been far weaker in the U.S. than originally reported. That is according to new data just coming in this morning. Let's get right to CNN's Matt Egan. What's the headline, Matt?
Jim, 818,000 fewer jobs were added during the period between April 2023 and March of this year. We were bracing for these revisions to come out and show that job growth was weaker, and that is what we got. This is probably on the high end of the expectations. Some of the forecasters had been saying probably around few 100,000 jobs. Goldman Sachs had said maybe up to 1 million. So this is on the higher end. We're seeing some of the biggest revisions downward in sectors that include manufacturing, leisure and hospitality, professional and business services. Of course, some sectors actually added more jobs than were previously known. Private education, health services, transportation, and warehousing. We look at the market, not a massive reaction from the market. I think that's in part because this is somewhat backwards looking data. What investors really care about is what happens next. And these numbers out today, they do support the idea that the jobs market has been weaker than we previously thought and that it has been slowing down. That makes sense because we know the Fed has been working hard to slow the economy down as it tries to fight inflation. So I do think that the fact that the economy had more than 800,000 fewer jobs than previously known supports the idea that the Fed is going to start cutting interest rates next month. The question still remains whether or not it's a 1/4 point or a larger interest rate cut. But either way, it's going to lower mortgage rates, credit card rates, and car loan rates. Jim?
Yeah, all of these data points are very important, and you have to think it's all being taken into consideration for that critical decision that's coming from the Fed. Matt Egan, thank you very much. Really.
Well, it's also being taken into consideration for that critical decision from voters come this November. And again, they're trying to bury this thing in the middle of the political convention. I guarantee you they waited until after Joe Biden was cleared away from the ticket before they did this. If Joe Biden were still the nominee, they probably wouldn't have actually announced this for another several months because they're trying to protect him. But now Kamala Harris has positioned herself not as the incumbent, but as an upstart challenger so she can sort of draw on this poor economic news because apparently she thinks it doesn't reflect badly on her, even though we know that she would do nothing differently than her boss, Joe Biden, who apparently is still the president of the United States. Isn't it remarkable? An entire year's worth of job numbers were skewed all in the direction of favorable reports for Joe Biden when he's president of the United States. They all faulted on the side of amplifying job growth instead of actually showing the reality of the number. And it's not just a rounding error. Close to 1 million jobs they were off by when estimating this. And why are we getting it now? The Bureau of Labor Statistics is giving us a full year's worth of this dump going back all the way to March of 2023. That doesn't sound weird to anybody. And I assure you, the way CNN is relaying this to their viewers, they are downplaying the impact of this. I'll show you what I mean because Fox News had a different take that they communicated to their viewers.
It is a huge revision down, 818,000 fewer jobs. This is basically the government's overstated the amount of people in the workforce. And even when you look under this, manufacturing was down 115,000 people. So this is a revision down, a significant revision down, the largest in 15 years that we've seen. And it basically says that the government has now overstated the amount of people who are working in this workforce. It shows weakness in the job markets over the past year that we didn't realize was there, but now we know is there. So again, 818,000 overall jobs down, manufacturing down 115,000 in this. And if you just wrote construction down 45,000. So these numbers are huge numbers in revisions down.
That's right. Huge numbers. And by the way, the only sector that did not get revised down, anyone? Government workers. Oh, they're great at creating jobs for government workers with your money and money that we don't have. Anyone in Congress watching this? This isn't, again, like I said, just a rounding error. Somebody didn't carry a 4 incorrectly. This is a giant, enormous scandal of a blunder, the worst in 15 years. Could we please have a hearing about this? Could we trot someone out? See, this is all these nameless, faceless government bureaucrats who are not elected, who are not accountable, and then they throw these numbers out erroneously, and they affect things. They affect the stock market. They affect elections. Could we please maybe have some hearings and find out how this happened and whether it was on purpose or not? Could somebody get fired? I know, it's a groundbreaking idea. I don't know what line of work you're in, but if your job is to say report numbers And over the course of a year, you got those numbers off by nearly 1 million. Maybe you're not the best person for the job. Maybe your team is kind of screwing up. Maybe somebody should be held accountable. Maybe someone should get fired. At the very least, how about a hearing? How about a hearing? Now, who's to blame for the lousy economy? Who's to blame for the fact that our job market is much softer than anybody's been letting on? Joe Biden was just on the stage at the DNC 2 nights ago, lying about his job growth. We created 50 million. No, you didn't. Democrat governors in New York and Illinois and in California finally allowed people to go back to work post-pandemic. That's not creating jobs, Joe. But even that number was overinflated by 1 million. So you'd think this is going to harm Kamala Harris, right? Well, let's check in with my resident genius in Congress, member of the House of Representatives from Los Angeles, California, Maxine Waters, because she's got news for y'all. Whatever economy you're living through right now, not their fault. Not their fault at all.
How do you avoid Kamala Harris losing this election because she is held responsible for an uneven economy because it's this administration's policies that will be blamed? The buck stops here. So you got 2 issues: the southern border that has gotten worse under their watch, and grocery prices, gas prices, pocketbook economics worse on their watch. Can she overcome that? And if so, how?
Nobody expected vice presidents to run the country. As a matter of fact, most vice presidents have been very low key, did not have a portfolio that was assigned from them that was significant. So I don't think they're going to blame Kamala for anything. As a matter of fact, they're going to praise Biden for keeping his promises. He said to many of us, you got my back and I have yours. And he's lived up to that. Did you see the love that he got on the floor last evening? People loved Biden. They thought he was an honorable man. He was a decent human being. He was a fair human being. And they're not blaming anything now on him or her. They're looking forward to the new possibilities of how this country can be the great country that it should and could be.
Boy, there you go. I mean, I'm sold. Can we unpack that for a minute? No one's going to blame Kamala Harris because no one expects a vice president to do anything. She doesn't have any accomplishments. Oh, we want her to be president now. But no, she didn't do anything. She's vice president. She doesn't do a damn thing. Of course, Joe Biden was just on the stage Monday night talking about all the great things that she's done because they were partners in everything that they did. Oh, but that doesn't matter either because you can't blame Joe Biden either because he's a good and kind and decent and honorable man. I mean, when he's not pulling that bloody knife out of his back that we all just plunged into it because we needed to get him off the stage. Now, he's a good, honorable man. Didn't you see all the love in this room for him? No one's going to blame him. Everyone in this room loved him. Everyone in that room is literally paid to be a Democrat. Everyone in that room is literally paid to love Joe Biden. It's their job. So, yeah, no one's going to blame him. Didn't you see all of us cheering for him? Yeah, I think Chris Cuomo's question had something to do with people outside the arena, you know, voters. So this is beautiful. They've been in office for 3.5 years. The economy is completely ruined because of it. And yet, according to Maxine Waters, the genius president of Mensa in Los Angeles County, California, neither Harris nor Biden will be blamed for any of it. Oh, and if there's anything that good happened in the last 3.5 years under them, well, they should get all the credit. That's how things work. You want to play a game? Here, I've got a coin. It's heads I win, tails you lose. Oh. This is literally how they think. And she can't lie that well. No, she literally believes that. We turn our attention back to the interview of Donald Trump and Theo Vaughn because the question of the economy and jobs came up. And while Maxine Waters is lying to you, and while the government is lying to you, and while Kamala Harris, despite what Maxine Waters just said about her not actually doing anything because she's vice president, while Kamala Harris takes the stage tomorrow night and does a victory lap lying to you about all the great things she's done as vice president, While all of that is going on and all that bluster is going on and all those lies are going on, we had a moment where Donald Trump talked about the very real effects of this economy and how Americans are hurting and how they are desperate to get him back in the White House. And ultimately, my friends, as we march toward Election Day, you and I, shoulder to shoulder as partners, this, what you're about to hear, this is really what it's all about. All right. So ultimately, when Trump is talking about the economy, when he's talking about what he was able to do, when he's actually listening and interacting with people about what's in his wheelhouse and being able to actually enact things like that, did you even know that that was something that they had done during the Trump administration to make sure that hospitals have to actually pay for the cost of their services before you purchase them? And Biden got rid of it. I mean, it's all of these things that can be unveiled, can be brought out, and good for Theo Von for bringing it up, because ultimately it's the last thing the Kamala Harris people and the Democrats and the media want talked about. You know, there's a reason why the Kamala Harris campaign still doesn't have a page that shows policies, what she stands for and what she intends to do. You see, Donald Trump right now in polls, specifically on policies, if you ask about all of the important policies that matter, except one, every single policy he wins by double digits over Kamala Harris, whether it's crime, foreign policy, national security, border security, inflation, jobs, unemployment, whatever. Boom, 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 he wins. The only one that Kamala Harris has going for her right now is abortion. And Donald Trump has even said that he doesn't plan on signing a ban on abortion at the federal level. It's the only thing she wins on. That's why they don't have any policies laid out on their website, because when they talk about policies, he wins. Think about that for a minute. A presidential election that is based on the policies that matter most to the American people and the ideas and solutions that both candidates bring to the table to solve those issues, Donald Trump wins. Hands down. That's why over the course of the next 80 some odd days leading up to Election Day, if they have their way, if the left, the Democrats, the Harris campaign, and all of their partners in the media, if they have their way, this election is going to be about everything but the policies. It's going to be about everything but what matters most to you. They're going to try to distract you every single day. But we won't let them. That's why we are in this together. Thank you so much for watching today. We really appreciate your support. Please do like and subscribe and follow and share and all the things that you do to keep what we're doing on social media and on the video platform you're watching going every single day. Really, really appreciate that. And real fast, our unsolicited but incredibly appreciated super chats for today. If we could. Oh, look at that. Sorry. All right, fine, Kevin, you do it. Low Dog, $5, and an endorsement of RFK for Attorney General. I don't know about Attorney General. I want an Attorney General who's ready to go to blow up the FBI and clean house. And I don't know if RFK is the guy to do that, but I think he's definitely going to have a role. Is that Angel Stadium, or is that Nats Park? Kevin, what do you think? I think that's Angel Stadium.
Couldn't tell you.
A lot of red there. Yeah, you're not a big baseball guy, are you? I'm also thinking that because those are the two baseball stadiums that I've spent the most time in, Angel Stadium and Nats Park. All right. And once again, thank you to Ricky D. Upchurch for that very generous super chat as well. We appreciate it, and we appreciate all of you. Thanks so much for joining us today. We'll be back next time. My name's Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.